The Legend of ARUT and TENEBANG Stone, a tale from North Kalimantan. In a forest there lived a man named ARUT and his wife Kimpo. Both of them lived in a cave. They looked for sagu for their life. They became more happy when Kimpo gave birth to a son and a daughter. When their children were teenagers, ARUT and his wife left them both to find sagu in the forest. When their parents had left them, they saw Janita bird enjoying a small chicken in front of the cave. ARUT's children then came out and tried to catch the animals. They tried hard and then caught the animals. After they got the animals, they pitched them one to each other. While they were watching the birds fight, the clouds, which had been bright, slowly turned into dark and black. ARUT's children did not see that the weather was changing. They watched the animals fight till one of the birds died. Suddenly, there was a loud sound from the sky. At that time, ARUT's children realized and immediately looked up at the sky. They saw a raining of stones and then ran towards the cave for their safe. But before it happened, their steps were stopped, and the land where they stood turned into a mountain that towered into the sky. On the top of the mountain that covered in the dark clouds, they shouted to their father, "Father, please help us! We're trapped on top of this mountain!" They shouted over and over again. It seemed like they can only hope that their father heard their screams. Kimpo, who was working on beating sagu tree with her husband in the forest, suddenly felt that something was wrong with her children. ARUT, who saw his wife behave like that, then stopped his work and decided to go home. On the way home, ARUT heard a faint voice. "Father, Mother, please help us. We're trapped on top of this mountain. Please help us." He guessed that the voice was his son's voice and tried to find where the voice came from. His eyes immediately focused on the mountain that covered in the dark clouds. From the distance, he saw his children there. Meanwhile, his wife, who also witnessed the scan, immediately finds it. ARUT tried to reach the top of the mountain, but his struggle was unsuccessful. Every time ARUT wanted to reach the top of the mountain, the stones fell on him continuously and filled the Abbas River. A few moments later, the mist that covered the children became solid and turned into a big stone. They trapped in the stone, and their screaming became loudly. Their father, who had tried his best, finally gave up trying to find a way to get his children out of the stone. He only could cry, watching his children swallowed by the stone. ARUT then returned to the cave and fell asleep. At that time, ARUT had a dream and saw the spirits of his parents calling his name many times. They asked ARUT to save their children, use his heirloom axe. In his dream, his parents also gave a message. If he had succeeded in splitting the stone, he had to silence so that his children could survive. ARUT immediately rushed out of the cave, brought his heirloom axe. He had time to sharpen the axe first, right on the stone. While sharpening the axe, he suddenly heard the sound of thunder, which struck the earth twice. He hoped that was a sign that his dream was true. ARUT then raised his axe and stuck it into the stone. His efforts were successful, and the stone began to split. His children's hand began to appear. A few minutes later, the voices of the children were heard. ARUT, who could hear his son's voice, tried to silence and continued to split the stone. Slowly, the children became more appear. ARUT then saw his children's bodies. However, their feet were still in the stone. The two of the children kept screaming for help. Father, Father, help us please. This is so hard, Father. But the father still did not answer their voice. He continued to swing his axe and hoped the stone would quickly split. When he saw the signs that the stone will fall, the legs of the children slowly began to appear. He was so happy without realizing it. ARUT shouted his son's name. "Oh, my son!" He forgot to remain silent and disobey his parents' taboo. And finally, before the two of the children's feet had time to release from the stone slowly began to harden again. The father, who was surprised to see this incident, immediately tried to pull his sons away, but it was too late. Even though he had tried to split the stone again, however, this time his struggle failed and the axe blade was broke. They screamed to their father in a very heartbreaking voice, "Father!" ARUT cried pitifully to see that incident. The stone that swallowed ARUT's children is now called Batu Tenebang, which means cutting stone. Its position is in the upstream of the Abath River.